Welcome to Expedition Networking, a special segment of the Networking RX podcast. I'm Frank Agan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections, and your host for this program. For those of you who are familiar, on the Networking RX podcast, we share information and have conversations with experts, such as authors, researchers, and social scientists. And all of these programs are aimed at helping you learn how to become better at building professional relationships and understanding why they work. In this Expedition Networking segment, however, we're going to bring on successful entrepreneurs and unique professionals and explore their networking adventure and learn how they used relationships to create lasting success. Today on Expedition Networking, we have Gerry Cantalupo. Gerry is a business consultant with Anchor Payroll and Human Capital Anchor Payroll and Human Capital Management Services. Gerry, welcome to the program. That was hard for me to get out. I don't know why. I think I wasted all my enunciation efforts on Cantalupo. You know, there's only so much I can do, and it was just gone. So anyhow, welcome.
Oh, it's good to be here, Frank. Thanks for having me on today. And you did a great job with Cantalupo. Very good.
Yeah, well, there you go. You can't have everything, but I got that much. Well, Gerry, I really kind of want to delve into your story and how relationships have played into this. You've been pretty much all over the country, or certainly not. You're in northern Jersey now. But you've been other places and done other things, and if you got to take us through that story, that would be great.
Yeah, so I've lived in quite a few places. I visited many places as well around the world. 35 nations, 49 states. I have one more state to go next year, and that'll be Alaska. And looking forward to that trip. But a short story, basically. I grew up in New Jersey. After high school, I joined the Navy because I wanted to see the world. And then I landed up spending 2 years in a shipyard in Norfolk. So didn't see too much of the world the first 2 years. But after that, was over in the Middle East for a while. And after I left the Navy, I went south and landed up in Texas. I finished my degree in education and started teaching. I was a middle school teacher, became a coach, and also the principal of the middle school and a high school. It was a small school, and finished my master's degree during that time at Texas Christian, Go Frogs, and that's pretty much how I started my career in education. So. I've always felt like I had a high EQ, right? I could get into the heart of the matter with people. But I always thought it was very important to put around you people that have technical ability, right? That are really good specialists at what they do. So fast forward a few years, got married. We decided, my wife took a company move back here to New Jersey. And I was involved in student recruiting. So I was traveling to China, Korea, Vietnam to recruit students. It was really a cultural experience, right? You get to know people through their culture. Business is business, but the way you connect with people is through what is to me is a cultural experience, right? Their food, their music, things that are inside of them, their experiences. And it's very interesting the way people are around the world. But I started working basically in financial services during that time as well with Northwestern Mutual. And that's when I got to learn about business. That's where I got to learn about what happens when business owners wake up in the middle of the night with things on their mind about their business, what keeps them up at night. And so for me, I really wanted to know what was the heartbeat of these business owners? What were some of the things that were keeping them up at night? And how could I be a connector for them? How could I put them in a place that would bring them to success? And it wasn't about business solutions. Most of the time, it was about people solutions. It was about what was important to them, their family, their finances, all these very sensitive areas that people deal with day in and day out. And I felt like all the years that I had developing those relationships put me in a place where I could have very sensitive conversations with men and women in business, and they felt that I was trustworthy. So, so all that to say is, I'd say about 10 years ago, I got into the business world and began to use my high EQ to bring benefit to business owners in many different ways. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea where I am now.
No, that's interesting. I knew the Navy part, and you may have mentioned the teaching part when we first talked. That's a real interesting contrast in communication styles. I mean, communication is communication, but when you're in a school system, you're not, the people come to you, right? I mean, you're not, I assume it was public school or?
Actually, it was a private school.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But it's just a kind of a different, it's a, I don't know, just the communication seems different. The dynamics seem different. I'm trying to put
well, I guess, Frank, for me, I look at it like this. Everybody, I mean, the obvious, everybody's a human being,
sure,
right? Everybody has a personal side and a professional side, but most of the time, the personal side is much more experience driven than the professional side.
Right.
And for me, I dealt with in the private school setting, I dealt with people's two most sensitive areas. One, of course, their children. And two, because it was a private school and we charged tuition, we had to deal with their financial life as well. And I can tell you, people are much more prone to talk about their kids, and even if their kids are off the rails, than they are to talk about their finance. That is one area that I think is the most sensitive area in most people's lives, is their finances. And I've realized at a really early on in my education career, our country does a poor job of teaching financial competency. I will not use the term literacy because I can understand what a 401k is, or I can understand the term savings and things like that. But in education, you can define a word, but if you can't use the word in a sentence, what good is the word?
Right.
So it's the same with finance. It's the same with business. And most business owners are really good at what they do technically, but they really don't have a good grasp on the financial part of the whole thing. And that's where they run into trouble. Or they don't have a good grasp on how to deal with their workforce personally. And that is also a big deal, a big problem in business. So finance and workforce. So what's the two areas that I dealt with the most? People and finance. So that's why I felt like I was very comfortable moving into the business world and having those deep conversations with business owners.
Right. I guess what I was trying to get at is just kind of, maybe it's the power dynamic. Like people say all the time, oh, Nick Saban, he's a great leader. Look what he does with these kids. And no doubt there's something there, but those kids are there on scholarship. And that's a world of difference than somebody leading a group of volunteers or, leading employees that don't need to be there. I don't know. It's just to me, it's very interesting. I guess you see a commonality there, and it's your life. And maybe there was less of an adjustment than it might have seemed.
Yeah, I mean, to me, and I've had people ask me that, how did you make a leap from education to financial planning and then into payroll and human capital management? I didn't see it as a leap because you're still dealing with people.
Right.
And for the most part, that business, especially if it's owned by a solopreneur or it's owned by one person or a family, that is really deep stuff. That is their life. And they've put everything into that. And so to get the right people in there who have the same passion as they do, to hold on to a workforce, to put, I guess there's a book, I can't remember it, it's about the bus, right? You might remember it, and putting the right people in the right seats on the bus.
That was John Gordon's bus, I think, isn't it? Or John Gordon's book.
I believe so.
Isn't it the Energy Bus? I believe that's
something like that. Yeah. But it's still very important. So for me, having a really heart-to-heart conversation with a business owner is really important. So maybe people are thinking, man, you're in payroll, man. How deep can you go with your conversations? Well, see, that's where I think most people make a mistake when it comes to networking. I'm not looking just to bring a product to somebody. I mean, there's a ton of products that are in payroll out there, but what am I bringing? Well, I'll tell you what I'm bringing. One, I mean, it might sound cliche and corny, but I am bringing myself and my experiences, but also I'm bringing my caring, my passion. And if I were in that other seat, and I have been as a business owner, what conversation would I want to have with somebody besides payroll? Well, let's look at that, right, real quick. There are many things that a business owner has to deal with. So there's two proverbs that I like to go by in my life. One, a good name is to be desired above riches. Frank, I have to tell you, my name is more, I'm glad you said you pronounced it properly. So my name is more important to me and to my children than it is to anybody else. And a good name is to be desired above riches. I'll bet you 9 out of 10 business owners feel the same way about the business name that they have. That's why I often ask them, where did you come up with that name for the business? And when they start talking about that, you see their eyes light up. They want to talk about why they named their business this particular name. It says a lot about who they are. And then the second proverb is, he or she who refreshes others themselves shall be refreshed. Now, what that means is, look, if I can find enough connections and resources that will benefit you in all different areas that are important to you, whether it benefits me or not, somewhere along the line, it's going to come back on me as positive. But it shouldn't be that I'm just going to do this because what's in it for me, the old, YFM radio show, what's in it for me? It's not about what's in it for me. It's about making the other person successful, because that will come back on you. Some people call that what? They call it, what's the word I'm looking for? When something comes back on you, karma, right?
Yep.
Some people, that's their paradigm. All different philosophies in life, but there's probably every philosophy has something. If you do right to somebody, it's going to come back on you someday. So that's kind of how I look at it. You got to find out what's important to a person. And if you can meet that need, regardless of what's in it for you, do it, because they tell other people about you. And so that's what I've tried to do with my life.
As you shared your items, the number one item is bringing you. I would add to that, you're bringing your network, because that's what it sounds like you're serving your clients with is you're bringing other things to help them become successful. And no doubt your competitors are coming in. I get it all the time. And the payroll world, it's like, hey, we can beat that. Well, generally the relationship trumps the savings, right? I use auto insurance all the time. I can get cheaper auto insurance. I don't know who you have insurance with. Doesn't matter. I know I can get cheaper auto insurance, but I don't think I can have the same relationship with somebody. And when I have an issue, I just have an agent I can call, and I like that. Likewise, your clients, you've come to your clients and they know that you've, in addition to having their backs on payroll and human capital services, you have their backs on lots of other things and continue to look for them. And there's a value to that you can't really, well, somebody could probably put a number to it. But most people really can't put a number to that. What value that is to have you there.
No, that's how I look at it. Intangibles. It's the intangibles, right? And for me, look, when somebody says no, we decided to go with XYZ, that's fine. I don't take that stuff personally, but here's the thing I try to do as well is if I think I think they're important, I follow up with people. I say hello every 3 to 6 months. How you doing? I hope all things are working well. And, that actually goes a long way to building trust, because sometimes you're not going to do business for 2 to 3 years after that first connection. And all I say to folks is, hey, look, whether you use me now or if you need me in the future, I don't want to burn the bridge, and I'm here if you need me. And it's happened time after time where somebody's come back to me after a year or two, said, Gerry, it didn't work out the way we thought it was going to work out, and we're ready to cut over to you guys, to Anchor or whatever. And it's only because I stayed with that relationship, just saying hello, maybe send some educational pieces here and there, maybe even referred their business to some of my friends or people that I know. Mm-hmm. It's just the right thing to do. So that's important, I think, in especially in networking.
Well, I think it's a very important lesson, because a lot of times what people will do is they'll say, well, they knew where I'm at if they need me. But the reality is they might be feeling like you're bitter. I'm not saying you, but somebody else they're not getting back to me because they're bitter. We didn't go with them. And you're basically sending a message to these people saying, you know what? Hope you're well. I'm not bitter. So when something goes south with the other provider, whatever it is, and things happen, they're comfortable enough to say, hey, let's talk.
And you don't look, we've all, I mean, come on, I'm not going to say that at times you don't feel disappointed. What else could I have done and said? I really wanted to win that business. Would have been a good day for me and my family. But in the long run, you can't force something. And if you wait and you're patient, you develop that relationship. Those are the relationships that last for a long time. And not only that, but then they begin to tell others about you. And I mean, we're not in a large enterprise payroll system. I mean, I'd put us up against anybody, but we're building. And one of the things that I think that happened well in this pandemic is we were able, and like a lot of people maybe even listening, you were able to expand your influence in many parts of the country that you wouldn't have had an opportunity to if you hadn't learned about Zoom or Ring Central or whatever. I mean, the fact that me and you were talking, Frank, is the reason is because we were able to connect through other networking that we probably wouldn't have done if we would have stayed in our own little world, in our own little region somewhere, So I'm thankful that I've gotten out to meet people from all over the country. Of course, living in many different states over my life and meeting people from all over, I had a pretty good network, but this just exploded it. So I was pretty excited about, I didn't like the pandemic. Nobody does, but there was a silver lining for a lot of people.
No, I totally agree. And you're right. I guess we'll throw out the name Michelle Murder. She's the one who connected the two of us. And Michelle is in my organization, but for the pandemic, I probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to connect with her on the level that I've connected with her over the year. And I'm on her radar and she's on my radar and you're on my radar. And it's it's just neat. It adds a whole nother layer to who we know and who we can be doing business with.
Absolutely. And
So,
she was connected to me through her organization, bank. So,
yeah. Yeah.
awesome.
It's neat. Let's switch gears here and talk about, who you're looking to meet, how the audience can help you.
Yeah. So, professionally speaking, I'm always well connected to CPAs and accountants and bookkeepers, folks that do commercial insurance such as workers' comp, paygo, bankers, fractional CFOs. Those are all good people for me to know because we're all working towards the same type of client. So, and again, we can work anywhere in the country. I mean, I just brought a company on from Arizona that has workers in 5 different states, so we can actually help businesses that have multiple locations and or employees in different states. As far as businesses are concerned, our best work, Frank, is with the small business community, sometimes into little mid-size, but mostly the 25 employees to 500 employee companies. And we can scale past that for sure. I mean, we can scale to 1,000 or so. We can go under 25, but it seems that our best work, because of our service model, which is exceptional in my opinion, but we can go with, we can work well with people that have 25 plus employees. And when they hit 50, then everything starts changing with the ACA. So,
Sure.
We can help scale that. We can help work with them in that too. So, industry-wise, manufacturers, retail, professionals such as medical and dental groups, law firms, even accounting firms and CPA firms. We do their payroll as well. Financial advisors, so financial firms, municipalities, companies that work with certified payroll and union wages. They work with government contracts and they need to show prevailing wage. So there's quite a few industries that we can work with, restaurant groups, and we can work well with. So a wide variety of businesses.
Yeah, thankfully you don't have to keep up on all that. You're the relationship guy.
I'm the relationship guy, but the cool thing is that at Anchor, every one of our clients has a single point of contact within the company, and that's who they deal with. So when they call us, they're not getting put into the maze, departmental maze. We don't do retirement planning. We don't do insurance. So we use strategic partners for that. So we're not looking to capture all that. But I would say this. If the bigger companies, the bigger enterprise companies are like the super tankers going across the ocean, I don't know if you've ever seen one up close and personal, but I have as a member of the Navy. I've seen some big ships out there, and those ships don't change course very easy. And they're going one place and you get on and you're going with them. Don't ask them to go somewhere else because that's where you're going. Anchor, on the other hand, is the schooner. We're the flexible, customizable. We can pivot on a dime. You get the captain and the crew. And if during that trip you say we need to go somewhere else, we can go somewhere else. The other thing that I like to say about Anchor is during the normal business day, if our clients need something and they contact us, whether it's email, text, or on the phone, we have a response time of 30 minutes during the business day. That to me is exceptional.
Yeah, it is. As I sit here waiting for calls back from last week. I
mean, it does make a big deal, especially again for the small business owners who feel lost in the big enterprise companies. They're not going to be lost with us.
What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Best way is through email and or through my direct line, my direct telephone line.
All right, I'll put your email in the show notes so people can get a hold of you. Gerry, I appreciate your time today.
Frank, thank you so much for letting me talk, and I really do appreciate it, and all the work that you're doing with AmSpirit as well. So it's a wonderful organization.
To wrap things up, remember, we're looking for some enterprising business types to join our team as franchisees of AmSpirit Business Connections. Our franchisees work with entrepreneurs, sales representatives, and professionals in their area to help them become more successful through networking and the exchange of quality business referrals in a structured weekly morning meeting. This is a unique franchise opportunity, you see, because these meetings are in the morning. A successful business type or professional can add this franchise opportunity onto what they're already doing. Again, all of our franchisees do something else. For a couple hours in the morning, a few mornings a week, these franchisees work the AmSpirit Business Connections model. The rest of the time, they're attorneys, accountants, realtors, coaches, and consultants of various kinds. The wonderful thing is that not only do our franchisees realize a financial gain from operating the AmSpirit Business Connections model, but the business networks that they build and develop become a great source of referrals for their primary business as well. Perhaps you know someone, perhaps you are that someone. Whatever the case, to learn more about the AmSpirit Business Connections franchise opportunity, please contact me using the email in the show notes or the one we provide at the end of this program.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.